Welcome to Tone Talks. Welcome to Tone Talks. Welcome to Tone Talks.
What up, y'all? Let's just get right to it. Let's have this discussion. 310-388-3499 to call in. Whew. Let me straighten this up because we about to have some people feelings hurt. Y'all know where that. Go look on Twitter before I get started, because that Diop is tied to slave trading. That last name that got dropped, the Wolofs. You look up the story. Don't nobody cover where the family is from. What part of Senegal, what part of the Senegalese hierarchy. All we know is that they had a servant and that the daddy was a doctor and that Diop got dropped, and all we call her is Issa Rae. But go look up that Diop because it's tied to the Wolofs, and the Wolofs were some of the main slave traders, but we don't ask that question before we give her the insecure shot. I'm starting off on hot. Y'all talking all this stuff, but don't ask why you dropped that Diop. Well, I just didn't want to confuse people. That Diop is tied to slave trading. I'm going to read it to you in a second. What is it to be black in America? Well, I believe what we've gotten to is a point where black is a catch-all. We are using it without any cultural anchoring, without any language anchoring, without any religious anchoring. So all it is a way for people to act like they part of you without giving you none of themselves. That black gonna choke you out. As for the black people, gonna marry a Senegalese, man. Ain't nothing but 18,000 Senegalese in America. There are 47 million black Americans. Probably 40 million are ADOS. How many of you got to step over to get a Senegalese man? She said her favorite dinner would be a Senegalese dinner. Good God. Y'all done let this woman do a whole show and didn't ask. After we told you about the New York article about the other young woman that got honest, my great-grandfather, the Nigerian slave trader. What about that Diop at the end of your name? You don't even know what questions to ask to draw boundaries. You don't know why she dropped it? It's on my Twitter. Go look, because we're going to get to it in the show, but I just wanted to start off on heat. This is Attorney Antonio Moore coming to you from Tone Talks, here to again talk about Issa Rae, because she came out with something new that is more press release than anything else, but they are laying jam out on a press release around the identity of being ADOS and not really framing that way as they say black. And black now, it don't mean nothing. They done bastardized it to the point where you better get in this ADOS boat or you ain't gonna have nothing left, because everybody black now. Good Lord. Can we talk? Under the partnership, Issa Rae's ensemble work with IC Studios to give Hispanic creators new opportunities by connecting them with brands and giving them access to production resources and skills training. Why is this in the Hollywood Reporter? They ain't announcing no $300 million deal. They ain't announcing no production starting. This is a basic press release draped in the imagery of ADOS black women through a woman who is anchored in being Senegalese that still ain't told us about dropping that Diop. She said she didn't even know who Tupac was when he was shot down. Good Lord. Y'all told me that. I told you that she wasn't here for the riots, and you told me she La La Land. She said she didn't know who Tupac was when he passed. You know what that take? God, I want to get to it. I ain't here for it. Televisa Univision strikes deal with Issa Rae's entertainment firm. Under that, it wasn't a lot of activity. ADOS done shut all that down. All the water got shut off. There's no such thing as a marginalized group. Coalition Black Americans have no allies. You have to show other groups doing the same. It's always Black Americans extending our resources and light to others. A joke. The Statue of Liberty is an ode to Black American women. She said, I don't want to be the voice of all Black people. She said this in Cosmo as well, or something similar, I should say. This was on the show, so her defense would be this is just the character, but we saw something similar in Cosmo. wow, this is awesome. I hope they're, and again, this is under the tweet on the Hollywood Reporter, people talking about this. It wasn't a lot of activity, but for those people that tried to come in with this, they got shut down. Wow, this is awesome. I hope there will be more Afro Latinx stories told in Spanish, Jen Brown. Love this. The more we collaborate with marginalized groups together, the more we will combat white supremacy. All right. There is no such thing as a marginalized group coalition. Come on, be easy. Get 'em. But many of you have created an identity around a global blackness that ain't nobody else using until they get here. But you don't have to take my word for it. I'm going to share this because a woman from Kenya that was going back and forth with me back almost like 7 years ago, she did this article, and on accident, she damn sure showed the truth. And this is just the global truth, the one I experienced in South Africa, the one Yvette experienced in Liberia, the one many of you don't get to experience because you don't never go to Africa, any part of the continent, not no country, and tell us what you think you know. All right, let's get right to it. I want to talk. Raise your hand in the chat if you've seen this before and you know where I'm going, because where I'm going hurts a lot of feelings, but there is a lot of truth that many Africans do not experience being black until they get to America, because the whole country black. Fortress Black in America closed to Africans. This woman, Miss Machara Hall, she was born in Kenya and later on came to New York as an adult or a teen or something. But what she says gives you the information, and her article sounds a lot like an article I found on Issa Rae later on. But watching Murphy Brown in Even Good Times or The Jeffersons could not teach me about the complexities of American race relations. Again, this is not Issa Rae speaking. This is a Kenyan woman telling you the dynamic of race outside of America, in Africa or parts of it. And this is pretty much across it. We watch the inner shows for their entertainment value, for the most part, blissfully ignorant of the tragedy that carried Black comedy. The tragedy of race and racism, ignorant of race and racism, was always there in those American sitcoms I had watched in Kenya. But I was not a Black person. I was an African immigrant. And that too was a designation that took some learning. So now we got a woman who was taken to Senegal, the elite of Senegal, where she had a maid. I went over that in the last show and what maids get treated like in Senegal and what that signals. Again, we'll get to the Wolof. And now you guys have allowed her to do a show, and she done took that energy and she's gonna do a partnership to elevate BIPOC or Hispanic creators. And you still out here clapping because you don't know what to clap for. What is blackness? It is something that now has become so pillarless that each person uses it to basically create their own kind of fantastical identity. So what we doing here? I need to talk. In Kenya, racism was a concept that existed only in books and never in conversation. Tribalism is what we live with daily. Our identity was and still is ingrained in ethnicity, not in skin color. It explains why most Africans experience being called Black or African for the first time when they come to America. Neither Black nor African are conscious identity markers for Africans in Africa. This is an important part of understanding what I'm going to talk about today, because I don't know what you guys are doing. You don't even know that you should have been asked her what that diop means. You don't have the basic toolbox that you're supposed to use to identify people you connect with and people you reject with. And she got an answer and show paperwork. I don't just want to hear it. I want to see paperwork because there's too much there. You'll see in a second. So any jokes or reference to racism in the Black American sitcoms flew right over our heads. The tiny population of Kenyan whites left over from a colonial past are mainly cocooned in their own enclave. So again, in Kenya, racism was a concept that existed only in books. Neither Black nor African are conscious identity markers. But we gonna come here as Issa Rae and play on the lack of the whole confusion of ADOS Black folks who have basically anchored themselves in a place they have no real drive to go visit any part. So I'll tell you now, my flight to South Africa was like $500-600. Almost everybody watching right now that has not been there has chosen not to go at some level. If it's the driver of your identity, because what has happened is you've created an identity that doesn't have any rudders, any pillars, and it allows you just to recreate yourself at any given moment. Today you a truck driver, and tomorrow you a bus driver, and the next day you a plumber, and then you something, and then you a Pan-Africanist, but then you come to the ADOS conference and you're just all over the place at 47. You watching the Issa Rae show by somebody named Joe Issa Rae Diop and don't know she dropped the Diop, and you should be asking, why does Diop ain't here? What that mean? Oh, that's tied to them Wolofs, the main slave traders. Okay, she got an answer for that. Like I said, she is a whole mess, and that's my view. But carry on doing this weird version of the Crip Walk from Senegal to White Potomac, Maryland, to Ladera Heights, Beverly Hills, to giving Hispanic creators a chance in this television industry. Again, I will show you in a second from her own words where she says, I did not know who Tupac was when he died. This is a cosplay, in my view. A cosplay in particular to Black women that do not understand that being Black and a woman does not identify you the way that being ADOS does. Can I get to it? Can I talk about it? Can we read about this weird press release they decided to make into an expose? They don't announce nothing, but then she on here because they spreading that jam of the ADOS Black woman that then achieved when she don't represent that. Televisa Univision strikes deal with Issa Rae's branded entertainment firm Ensemble. Spanish language media giant Television Univision wants to push farther into the creator economy and is partnering with Ensemble, a branded entertainment company co-founded by Issa Rae and media industry veterans Ian Schaefer and Matt Berger. What's the percentages? Is it majority owned by Issa Rae? All that's important. I mean, it's still highly problematic because I don't know what we're doing here with her. All right. Under the partnership, because Ensemble, why they not in the picture? Remember what Woman King, I said the same thing? Why they not in the picture? They got her up there like she just by herself. Under the partnership, can we come on? Can we get to it? Ensemble will work with ASI Studios, Teleunivision in-house brand studio to give Hispanic creators new opportunities by connecting them with brands and giving them access to production resources and skills training. That will include access to Teleunivision studios across the country with the media company hosting creator camps. In other words, creators that participate have the potential to be seen by a much larger audience. Hispanic creators deserve equal opportunities and resources to succeed. Issa Rae's Ensemble connects brands and BIPOC creators. She done got this man a Popeyes commercial. That's in the article. You can go read it. I'm serious. I'm not joking. Issa Rae is helping underrepresented creators reach their full potential in the brand space. And in this article, she done got this man a Popeyes commercial. Ensemble is championing BIPOC talent because they face more barriers to brand deals than their white counterparts. So we are making content out of being ADOS and then spreading it around through Blackness and then basically bastardizing that into everybody BIPOC. Black in they made that as an answer to ADOS, and when the it was one of the major papers. I don't know if it was Reuters or if it was the other one, AP, but they reached out to me and Yvette for a story. We lit them up so well they never did the story, which asked the question: how you got Indians next to blacks when Indians own slaves? This came about, to my knowledge, after ADOS took off to basically, in my view, undercut ADOS with this term BIPOC that puts groups together that don't go together. So she done got this man, and I'm not speculating, I'm saying he's one of her creators, a Popeyes commercial. She done got him a Popeyes commercial. Here you go, right here. From me, this is from Issa Rae's new partnership. This is the result of all of your support. Thank you for watching Insecure. He get to do a Popeyes commercial. How many of y'all feeling that? All right. Issa Rae is launching a new company to connect brands with diverse creators, with Pepsi, Chili, and more already on board. We didn't give you support to be a brand creator where you helping companies sell more Pepsi to us. But again, that's the problem when you got this woman who is anchored in being Senegalese that said in Cosmos something similar to this. I don't want to be the voice of black people. And you looking at it through a lens of black, and you ain't told me what black means. What's the language? What's the religion? What's the cultural values? Oh, you make that up along the way. You make that up along the way. They struck a deal, y'all. I'm rooting for everybody black. HBO star Issa Rae backs African Americans at the Emmys as Atlanta's Donald Glover wins 2 awards. Issa Rae says black show cancellations make going indie. Issa Rae on making misadventures. Hold on. Issa Rae on making misadventures of awkward black girl. Black. Can somebody tell me, 310-388-3499, what black means? Because right now, it's not what it traditionally meant before a mass immigration, which I'll talk about in a second. You got most black immigrants coming 20 to 30 years after Jim Crow. And then you got ADOS people shut out. Around here using a term as if Africa, the continent, is a country, because on the map it looked like America. So America is drawn on a map with states of different colors. But this is one country with one denomination, one passport. You can drive across the whole country. This is a continent, a vast continent that is separated. Each one of these is a country, and not in the same sense of America, not a developed top tier first world country. Different kinds of countries, some on the verge of collapse, some stable. It's just a mix of things all up in there. But you call it Africa as if it's a singular place, then you define yourself by the place, and you never plan to ever go there in your life. In fact, some of you don't know anybody who's ever been there outside of people who are African or African. You don't know your grandmama, your mama, your auntie, your grandpapa, your kids. Nobody you know, nobody you even know that will be here after you dead has ever been here, but this is your entire identity. It is so disconnected while you call yourself this one word, Africa, that the richest man there was arguing last week or 2 weeks ago, May 22nd, around there. Africa's richest man says he needs 35 visas to travel in Africa, way more than a European visitor. The richest man. So we are talking about this place where this man needs 35 passports to travel, as if it is a place when it actually is a set of disconnected places that are, at many of them, unstable. And comparing it to America because of the map, and she is catching the windfall under the term black that we be using. Y'all better figure it out, man, because I don't know what the pillars of your identity is, but I do know this. This Kenyan woman, who is Kenyan, meaning she was born there and she lived there her life, and then came as an adult, says it explains why most Africans experience being called Black or African for the first time when they come to America, meaning they don't even call themselves African because the term don't make no goddamn sense as an identifier. You are taking a vast, the most diverse continent and labeling it on one term, and it don't make no sense. They don't use that there because they are disassociated, disconnected. But you need something. You need a tether. You don't love yourself. You don't look in the mirror and say, Ados, I want to give that to you today. Can we talk? Letting this woman crip walk that didn't know who Tupac was when he passed and was not here for the LA riots. She done did this whole show that don't make no sense about Adolf's love while she has a Senegalese daddy that couldn't get along with that Adolf's mama in Senegal, and the mama learning Wolof, and the Wolofs traded us into slavery. God damn. I'm about to get to it. She done got him a Popeyes commercial at least, though. That's what this is all about today, or what triggered it is they did a Hollywood Reporter article, and in the Hollywood Reporter article, Issa Rae struck a deal to help the Hispanic creators, and this is one of them. She got him a Popeyes commercial. You land that plane where you need to. That's where your Issa Rae support landed, in his chicken box. Issa Rae, Joe Issa Rae Diop. Let's use her full name because that Diop is important, which we'll talk about in a second. Hello, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Oh, D, I'm calling from Texas.
Hey, give me your take on it.
This discussion made me think of this story I saw on CNN 6 months ago. It's still on YouTube. It says Black CEO says he was shocked by credit union's decision. Basically, he had a home he was getting ready to close on. I think it was like a $750,000 home. And right before it was time to close, they denied his mortgage application. The funny thing was that the guy was actually African. He wasn't Black. But he was so shocked that this happened because even though he has this skin, he is not familiar with this struggle. And that is what we see a lot. We see a lot of Africans coming to America, highly educated, and they skew the economic data that shows the reality of what being Black in America really is.
Let's put that in numbers. In Los Angeles, we saw it with the city with this report that came out that I covered multiple times. It's one of the first ones that broke out by ethnicity. You saw that the middle native-born Black family had like $200 liquid, and the middle African family, primarily probably Nigerians, that's what's in Los Angeles, has $60,000 liquid. That's because the elite come here from their country. But in addition, with Issa Rae, I think there's some real questions that you guys don't even know you should have been asking. And it's not just Issa Rae, it's so many others. It falls in line with what I said about Nicole Hannah-Jones. We're not just worried about your involvement with that Black family that wasn't an hour or some craziness. But we want to know if you got money from that white grandparent, that one that's conservative that passed away. Did you get gifts? Did you get privileges? Did you go to that white church? Did you become white adjacent and become somebody that shouldn't be talking about that 1619? Also with Issa Rae, I want to know about that family, that Diop family. I want to know, as everybody should have been asking, these are the pillars of what should have happened with this group during the Boomer era. Questions about who are you? You want us to support your show. What is your family name and what was their involvement in us being traded into this country? Answer that for me. With that Harriet Tubman movie, we supposed to have asked that actress, did your family trade slaves? Because if they traded slaves, you cannot play Harriet Tubman or we will boycott it. What we need to be asking is with the boycott Woman King. Y'all remember, if it wasn't for me on this show, that Woman King was going to take off. Period. You can go look at all the articles, what happened. Shut it all down. It's not happening because we watch the videos and know that the Dahomey tribe traded slaves. I don't care about no Viola Davis, and you can tell her I said it. What's your thoughts on the Issa Rae? Caller? It show you still there, but you ain't there. All right, I'm going to drop you. 310-388-3499. She crip walking, y'all. I ain't gonna keep you too long, but I'm gonna hit this show because what you see is that y'all don't know that this black thing now has become a hideaway to not deal with the fact that you don't know who your grandfather was, what he had, what he didn't have, and how that has shut your life off. How the politics your mama didn't do can't be done today. How your auntie, come on, impacts your life. You don't know, you should be asking, did you trade slaves as a first question? And if they don't answer, you need an answer for that person to be around you. Damn all that. Did your family trade slaves? You presume they don't know like we don't know. No, they got the book. My granddaddy was this. My great-granddaddy was this. The chains is in the living room. We know that because of the New Yorker article. My great-grandfather, the slave trader. But in addition, we know based on the numbers that there's 47 million blacks, 40 million ADOS about. And only 58,000 Americans, black, white, Asian, even went to any part of this whole continent. Even if all those people was ADOS, that's nothing. But I wouldn't doubt that ADOS aren't but 2,000 or 3,000 of that, and they went to different countries. ADOS people do not go to Africa and are identifying through it in a sense to avoid the realities of creating an identity that allows them to survive and thrive. When you gonna go to Africa, you keep saying that you African and stay there 6 months. Issa Rae's dream dinner party is a beachside Senegalese feast. It ain't but 18,000 Senegalese in America. In addition, the elite of Senegal, their families likely traded us into slavery. So what celebration is this to tell me this shit? And y'all support it without asking no questions of where that Diop at. She's genetically ADOS through her mother. It appears she is just heavily anchored in being Senegalese via her father. And Senegal is here, all right? And she was in Dakar on the water with the servant. And we was traded from right here on the water. And her last name Diop. How many breadcrumbs I gotta give you? She married a Senegalese man named Louis Diam. But to frame that, I just said it earlier. And I'm trying to frame this because I want to know what is this blackness? Because they say they don't use it there. And then when they get here, they using it in all the wrong ways. But then they use it to be able to make it seem like we all one people, when in reality, we need to be asking, did your family trade slaves? And we need to know where to put that answer. Why does it matter if their family traded slaves, Antonio? And if you ask that question, I don't know if you're a full person. That's everything for peoplehood. You don't see what's going on in the Middle East or in Ukraine. You don't see what's going on about identity and peoplehood. You can't use blackness and be talking about humanity. Let me go back to the top. You can't be talking about helping humanity and then using blackness as content because you don't have no good content. So basically, my view, what's going on is that Issa Rae don't make good content. Her content is to be diversity, but diversity for everything that ain't like white, so white people can keep doing their regular stuff. So the product is to basically be the only one making the diverse stuff for everybody that ain't white. What that got to do with ADOS? I want to talk. Ain't nobody asked no questions about how there's 47 million blacks, 40 million are ADOS. There's only 18,000 Senegalese out of 2019. And ain't nobody asked, how did you end up marrying a Senegalese man? What did that look like? Because you gotta basically hyper target. That's like having a hinge for Senegalese, and it's like 12 people on there, and you just choose from the 10. I ain't messing with nobody but these 10 people on here. All right. Lovebirds. Can we talk? We have defined being us in an Africa that is disconnected, much of it in chaos, unstable. Congo and all of that. The richest man needed 35 passports. You ain't got to take my word. I just showed you on the show. He say it right here. To go across 35 visas. You never will go there, and almost everybody you know will never go there. And only 58,000 all-Americans, there's only 300 million Americans, 58 went to any part of the continent, that big old continent. No one goes there. So what are we talking about? What we're talking about is avoiding the reality of anchoring, demanding, owning, pushing your own place that you stand on, that soil. In 2022, an estimated 47.9 million people in the U.S. identified as Black. We talked about this right here, and I need you guys to remember this because a lot of people don't understand this. They just be talking. They was always here, and Marcus Garvey, and what about Stokely Carmichael? Stokely came here for school. Look at this, and look at when Blacks, immigrants came here. So you have Jim Crow in the 60s, ending, and then about 20 years later is when they come in any number. So you got people that might have came here 20 years after Jim Crow, 85, 89, 25 years plus, telling us about the experience of being ADOS Black in this country, making shows trying to play the imagery of Harriet Tubman or Martin Luther King. It don't make no sense. And that is the consequence of not answering the question, what is Blackness? Because now what it's become is a doorway into basically making you houseless, identityless, cultureless. Anybody can be you. He just need brown skin and a little kink on top. The growth, you ain't got to take my word. Look at this is from the census. The dashes are the Caribbeans. The dots are the Africans. You don't even see Africans come here from any part of Africa until after 1990 in any number. What are we even talking about? Before 1965, according to the Smithsonian, Black people of foreign birth residing in the U.S. were nearly invisible. According to the 1960 census, their percentage of the population was to the right of the decimal. So by what right do we then create a flattening through this identity called Blackness where everybody gets to trample on the lineage and the struggles of my family and yours if you ADOS and watching? Somebody would say, well, her family half ADOS. Well, she anchored in that Senegalese. You ask that Senegalese husband. Talk to me when you see some cornbread and some greens. She anchored in that Senegalese. Talk to her about the best dinner in her mind. Beachside Senegalese feast. You know why it's beachside? Because she lived in Dakar with the servant, the maid or whatever. Y'all been watching a show from a woman and you don't know what you've been watching. Because you don't know what to ask people. You married and then y'all don't like to watch ADOS shows together. Y'all don't even, he atheist and you a Christian. You married and y'all ain't got the same values because you married each other because you're both Black. And then that thing didn't never get anchored down into what that means. What is it? What is it? What is it? It's just we Black? I want to talk today, and everybody isn't talking about it, but I don't know how the lady is crip walking that didn't know who Tupac was when he died. Oh, at least she got him a Popeyes commercial. She struck a deal, y'all, where she got a deal with the Latino channel to get them Popeyes commercials. All right, and Pepsi. This is the article. You can go read this article. Go read this article when you get a chance, because this is before she got her story together. This is back in 2018. She does this story, and in this story, it's an expose. And in this story, she breaks down a lot of things. I just got a couple sections, but woo, Lord, she's a whole lot of everything at once. Issa Rae on Ramadan and growing up between America and Senegal. This is back in 2018. She got her story together. One thing I do notice is that pretty normally, all she tells you is that the daddy is Senegalese. She don't tell you the tribe or the actual cultural anchoring in Senegal, because she don't want you to do that research, in my view. So all we hear is that he's Senegalese, and that's it. That's not what she's supposed to tell you. Once he tell you that, and you know that your family was sold from there, you're supposed to ask some more questions about what does that mean? Did your family trade slaves? That's going to affect whether I want to support you. You're not supposed to just support people because they black. That don't even make no sense. Not when your family was traded into slavery by somebody black. Let's get into this article together so you can read a little bit about the wildness that's going on. I was about 5 years old, but the memory is pretty vivid. You don't soon forget the sight. This is Issa Rae in this article. You don't forget the sight of a live goat throat being slit. It played like a horror movie, except everyone was watching. This Issa Rae on Ramadan and growing up between America and Senegal in this article. All right. Except everyone was watching and cheering. Let me read it again. I was about 5 years old, but the memory is pretty vivid. You don't soon forget the sight of a live goat's throat being slit. It played like a horror movie, except everyone was watching and cheering, just gathered around while the poor goat lay there bleeding his life out. What are we talking about? Remember earlier when I read the article about the Kenyan woman and the Blackness, and she was talking about the TV shows. Well, sound like Issa Rae was doing the same thing in Senegal. There, when the TV actually worked. I remember when they first got Wi-Fi. So you out there early getting Wi-Fi. Was this the late 90s? What's this? At my aunt's house in Dakar, because it was a pretty momentous day. Not that it really changed things for us. The internet only worked in my aunt's bedroom, and it was hot in there. So you had to ask yourself, do you want to be hot on the internet or catch a breeze and talk to grandpa? When I would make the mistake of asking what we were doing today, I got blank looks because my cousins were basically like, that's on you, bruh. Boredom was not a thing to complain about. Parents were always scrambling around figuring out how to entertain us. But back home, I would regularly embarrass myself with my lack of coolness. When Tupac was shot, which was a huge event in LA, all the kids were talking about it at my school. My nerdy self had no idea who Tupac was. Again, when Tupac was shot, these are from Issa Rae from this article in 2018. The woman that did the deal for the Popeyes and Pepsi commercials, and anchoring diverse voices that did the show Insecure. This is the person. When Tupac was shot, which was a huge event in LA, all the kids were talking about it at school. My nerdy self had no idea who Tupac was, which I blame on my older brothers, who usually would have introduced me to stuff like that. But they had all gone off to college at this point. So I didn't know a thing about Tupac. I remember kind of edging into someone's conversation at school one day, trying to fit in, mimicking their hushed, melodramatic tones, mimicking their tones. Yeah, I heard Tupac died. I nodded. My head slowly, like I was so devastated. That's so sad. What did he sing? Can we get to it? This is what people rolled their eyes and walked away. It was humiliating. I was chubby, something my Senegalese aunts thought was lucky and healthy. As for my mom being there without her was deeply sad. This is different sections of this article. Go read the whole thing for yourself. Exclusive preview, Issa Rae on Ramadan and growing up between America and Senegal, done back in 2018. And it gives you some, and I was looking for what tribe her daddy was from, really. because they're tribal. We know that. They know we don't know, so we never ask the right questions. We don't ask the basic questions. We just say black is black and everybody black, so I love you because you black. You were sold to America by black people. White people did the enslaving here, but you were sold by black people on them shores. Which shores? The ones that Issa Rae family lived elite lives on. This one. All this over here. Senegal, all that. Can we get to it? She's in the car. So you don't know that should be your first question. And you should feel a certain kind of way, the way you feel about some redneck white person when they tell you, yeah, my family traded slaves. Let me finish this article. Let me finish and go read the whole thing for yourself because these are sections. But listen to this. As far as my mom being there without her was deeply sad. My relationship with her was suffering as a result of the divorce, but I would still missed her presence in Dakar. I knew she loved the place as much as I did, even though she wasn't Senegalese per se. In this article earlier on, she says that her mama learned Wolof or something of the sort. That is the trigger that let me know, oh, we got something here. We cooking. We finally got a word. She makes sure to keep that tight knit like she did with the relationship where you couldn't know that he was Senegalese to the last minute. She keep it tight knit about the Wolof. But why she do that? The gravity of the atrocity skipped over by Woman King can't be put into words. The boycott Woman King protest should be an awakening for ADOS Black Americans as to the gaps in your own identity. This video, you can't get it no more. A teacher actually reached out to me. How do I get the whole video? It was on YouTube, but after I did what I did with it on the Woman King, you can't find it. That's what the teacher told me. So it's called the African Trade, and it follows these blacks as they go to Africa back in I think the 90s, and they finally figure out that the Africans traded us and it's not like roots. And the Africans admitted in the video, and the Dahomey were actually sacrificing black folk, your families that didn't make it from these shores, your cousins, like that goat that we described earlier in her house. You remember when we shut down? Oh, what do you mean you shut it down? You see this LA Times? It says, time to boycott Woman King movie. The film is about the Dahomey and the Benin that traded slaves into the transatlantic. Tone Talks. It wasn't just them. It was so many different sources. It's not for play. You had this woman. We do not understand the depths of the relationship of African slavers and their white slavers that they traded with regularly. So literally they would sell slaves to the white folk, and they had such a tight relationship that you had some of their children actually go to Europe on top of the boat while the slaves were there. It's not visually just what you think, where the white folks just take the slaves and then they on the boat and that's it, and the Africans are in their little skins and everything, and they stay. No, they put their kids on the ship while the slaves are in the galley. The Africans sent their children to live with white slavers in their homes in England while they schooled. We have it all backwards. But why did I mention that? Because her name is Issa Rae Diop, and Diop should be a signal and a trigger. What kind of signal and trigger, Tone? A bat signal? No, it should be a trigger to ask, what then does that mean? The surname Diop is most likely found in West Africa, mainly Senegal, and is derived from the Diop clan of the Wolof and the Lebo people. Who are the Wolofs? The Wolof Empire was a major participant in the slave trade, exporting as much as 1/3 of all African slaves prior to 1600 CE. And y'all celebrating without asking questions. Then let this woman call herself Issa Rae, blanket herself in black womanness, for whatever that means. And we gonna forget being American descendant of slavery. Can I talk today? Can I make it plain while she crib walk? I just want to know, because her name is Joe Issa Rae Diop again. Just saying it one more time. And the surname Diop is most likely found in West Africa, mainly Senegal, and is derived from the Diop clan of the Wolof and the Labo people. And the Wolof Empire was a major participant in the slave trade, exporting as much as 1/3 of all African slaves prior to 1600. And she living in Dakar, or maids, let me say, and her daddy's a doctor. And y'all ain't asked no questions. We don't even have a system to ask questions. We built nothing. Your parents often, and shit, damn near all, built nothing for you to actually have critical analysis of who you allow in your space and to speak for you. This is an absolute failure. My great-grandfather, the Nigerian slave trader. Now, this isn't by Issa Rae, but this is by a woman who got honest in the New Yorker. The New Yorker is among the most premier magazines in America. So they did their fact checking. They ain't gonna just put it out. And what she got honest about is her great-grandfather, Nwambi Ogo, was a slave trader. But then they talked about in the story how they buried him with people that were still alive. And how they were so proud they still had the chains. Now, I can't say that Issa Rae has that. I don't know nothing but the goat that she admitted to that in front of a 5-year-old got killed. But I will say, Diop living with the maids and the Wolof tie-in, there's some questions to be answered damn sure before she got this show. And I don't want to hear nothing more about We All Black. Go read this article for yourself. Again, this isn't Issa Rae. This is another woman who got honest. We done used these terms over time. We went from African and colored during the early republic. The earliest mutual aid groups and schools for free and enslaved blacks adopted the broad term African as an identifier. The African Methodist Episcopal Church in Philadelphia was founded by black freedman Richard Allen, while the African School Free in New York was organized by founding fathers Alexander Hamilton and John Jay in the Emancipation era. Black Americans shifted from inherited terms of racial categorization to naming themselves colored was the dominant term through the mid to late 19th century, but the freedmen adopted the term for themselves as a marker of race pride. And then we moved from that to Negro, dawn of a new day for the Negro. The term Negro gained acceptance in the late 19th century with the promotion of the black activists like W.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington. Harlem Renaissance writer Langston Hughes' affirmation of the term is evident in this piercing line from a 1926 essay. Why should I want to be white? I am a Negro and beautiful, colored and Negro. See, there were no immigrants here, hardly none. I'm to the right of the decimal and probably smaller than that if you got really down to it. We then started using this term black and African American. By the start of the modern civil rights movement, black Americans were considering new ways of thinking about their communities. Black had been used as a negative foil to white people, so it was a contrast. And thus the opposite of all that is good and pure, and for that reason has been considered offensive. It is my belief that now it's time to cast that away. Because what you have is people that don't use the term, using it as a mechanism for us not to ask the questions that we need to ask because we presume we all the same because we use the word black. Get to it, Tone. Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, it's North.
Give me your take on it.
So yeah, I just kind of want to touch back on the fact of that clip that you used for the Woman King boycott, and the fact of I'm wondering if everybody sees how serious this is. They got rid of that clip. So not only that, that means that they are watching us. And if you don't understand who they is, it's like you can't be helped. You really cannot be helped. They literally took that clip away so you guys wouldn't understand these people are playing in your face, that they're disrespecting you to your face, and that everything that the AOS Foundation, Home, event, everything that they have basically taught a lot of you is exactly what the truth is. That's exactly what happened, and they don't want you to know.
Yeah.
Let's really hash it out. They went on to YouTube, went to that particular clip, and took it away. You can no longer see it now.
Yeah, and what I'll say, and what I'll say is, that's what the teacher represented to me. I went back to the link that I used and it wasn't there. I'm not saying that I know who removed it, and I'm not saying that it's not somewhere, but I know that it's not easy to find like it was before I used it for Woman King. Go ahead.
So yes. So and again, I don't think that's a coincidence, Tone. I think that was on purpose. I think the same people that smeared us with the Harvard paper is the same people who did what they did when they took away that clip, when they put Issa Rae up there. It's the same people who somehow, some way, allow her to understand, don't talk too much about Dia. Don't talk too much about that. Because then they'll understand exactly who you are and what you were sent here to do.
Give me your take on everything with Issa Rae. With everything with Issa Rae and the show and Teleunivision deal and all that.
So with that being said, again, I want to know, for Adolf who is not in the chat, why is it okay with you that these people play in your face and then jump over you and go to a non-fact
North. Wait. I never got to ask you what you think about this and this woman who was not here for the riots when you do the timeline, and then also didn't even know who Tupac was when he died doing the crib walk. And I know you from LA.
I just think, and you know what gets about that right there, that what pisses me off is I'm from the East Coast. I'm originally from the East Coast. I didn't listen to rap like that, but I knew exactly who the hell Tupac was. She's telling you she's disrespecting y'all, the Adolf in our face. That the fact that she don't even bother to understand what was going on with us, and she is, again, she's not us. That's what that is.
Come on. Thank you so much, North. You killed it. Thank you. Whew. So let me say again, because people be like, what do you mean? She said that she didn't know who Tupac was. You can go read this article for yourself. Exclusive preview, Issa Rae on Ramadan and growing up between America and Senegal. And in it, she literally says, when Tupac was shot, which was a huge event in LA, all the kids were talking about it at school. My nerdy self had no idea who Tupac was, which I blame on my older brother, who usually would have introduced me to stuff like that, but they had all gone off to college at this point. So I didn't know a damn thing about Tupac. I remember kind of edging into someone's conversation at school one day, trying to fit in, mimicking their hushed melodramatic tones. Isn't that insecure? I just want to get to it. Again, I'm not saying I know, I'm just saying that we need to ask. Why is it that you dropped that Diop? We went from, just call yourself what you could call, Joe Issa Rae Diop. We just gonna go with the middle, okay? And then we're not gonna allow people that are digesting who you are to know and have the signals to ask, well, where'd you come from? Because if you got the Diop in the main name, then you will be able to look it up and see that the surname Diop is tied to the Wolof, and then tie that to the Wolof Empire was a major participant in the slave trade. Can we talk and ask the questions? I'm just asking because she got to go to Dakar and be in the elite area. And now we doing the whole, I don't know what, we doing some kind of marketing for everybody. Under the partnership, Issa Rae's ensemble will work with Asi Studios to give Hispanic creators new opportunities by connecting them with brands and giving them access to production, resources, and skills training. This is more press release than expose. It's not announcing some $100 million partnership with a company, which in my view makes it much more newsworthy. It is basically something where her name should have just been in an article until something happened. Again, I'm not saying that her family did anything, but I'm saying that the breadcrumbs tell us that we should be asking. And I don't know how we got to a point where we don't know to ask anything. Because you a black woman, I got to support you. Well, you gonna keep supporting somebody who crip walking and wasn't here for the riots and clearly didn't know who Tupac was when he passed and played it up melodramatically to connect with Adolf's folk. This is Tone Talks. Please go to tonetalks.net, subscribe, donate, and share. I just wanted to hit this real quick because I don't know what y'all doing, but I know that insecure, that wasn't it. Thank you.